What's up, everybody? It's Keefe at GhostColdMag.com. Late night Keefe with a live stream here. We're going to talk some Faith No More. I meant to do this last night, but I passed the fuck out early because I'm old as fuck now. Dissident Folklore is here. Sean Parkin. Flat Spot Records. What up, what up, what up? Good to see you here. Certainly a band that influenced a lot of bands, including some of the Flat Spot bands. I'm talking about Faith No More. I'm just making sure everybody is watching and here like they're meant to be. But yeah, the news hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm a huge Faith No More fan. Let me know in the comments if you are too. I appreciate everybody that's watching on all the things. As usual, we are streaming live on all the things. Twitch, Facebook, Instagram. I like hanging out on TikTok, even though I gotta pull it in. Oh, what's going on here? Why did this go away? It's fucking weird as fuck. All right, it just vanished. My live stream vanished on TikTok. We'll try one more time. All right. Resume. All right. This fucking thing. All right. Technical difficulties already. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'll be back on later today. We'll do some of the minutiae of the show, but I will be back on later on. And today, with our weekly rock and metal news show, Gigi fan is here. What up, what up with the Paulie Walnuts, iconic Paulie Walnuts style avatar there. We are talking Faith No More and why they came back. Why did they come back? I know a lot of cynical people will say money. They are confirmed to be coming back. They signed with a global marketing team. So I guess this thing is just not going to cooperate today. I'll try it one more time. But I think this thing doesn't want to fucking work, which is fine. Which is fine. I am unsure why. Oh, maybe that's why. I'm also not on Wi-Fi on the phone. Get the motherfucker on the phone. All right, we'll try one last time. Designs for silly. The Superior Werewolves here. What's up? What's up? What's up? So yeah, Faith No More is back, and I just want to talk about why. I think this is hugely important. If it was ever going to happen, it's happening now. But I also got to keep it real. I was convinced as little as a few days ago this would never happen. So I'm just stunned. I'm honestly stunned that they're coming back, but I'm thrilled that they're coming back because I love this band so much, and you should too. And if you don't, maybe something is wrong with you. But anywho, let's quickly get into the minutiae of the show because it's late. Brand new interviews up on the channel here on YouTube and on our podcast. I interviewed the frontman of Floyd Nation. If you ever asked yourself a question, what would happen if a tribute band got so good they went and recorded their own original album as well as covers of the band they've been paying tribute to for years? Of course, it would be flawless. So yeah, talk to Will Kaiser from Floyd Nation. Pretty killer interview. Looking forward to their US tour coming soon. Also, IC3B Rock is here. What up, what up? Kevin McCarthy. Hopefully not that Kevin McCarthy. You probably hear that all the time. Shira HPK is here. Charles Snowdis. Also, ran a brand new interview with the post-hardcore supergroup Held, featuring members of The Sleeping and Coheed and Cambria. Really cool interview with Douglas Robinson of The Sleeping, of Held, and The Sleeping. Really great. Also, recently we interviewed Devin Townsend. Phenomenal new album, The Moth, is out now. It's on the pile of records behind me on my bed, and it is phenomenal. One of our biggest and best reviewed albums of the year and most read album reviews so far. Also, just a little reminder, even though we have some affiliate partners and some money from ad sales, we are not corporate backed. So if you feel like you want to be tipsy, West Not West, what up, what up? Good to see you. If you're feeling tipsy, you can hit the tip menu or come on to YouTube and, we take super chats, super thanks, super likes, all that stuff very seriously here. And I will also link later on where you can follow us because people seem confused about where to get their information from. We are your 24/7 source for rock and metal news. We've been doing this for 15 years almost. So just come hang out. All right. Fun. We're on all the things. All righty. So there's our Cash App in case you're curious. I'm a dummy is here. Thomas Low. Daniel. Get low. Feel free to share this with people you know, like Faith No More. JMC, what up? What up? So, Faith No More, how did we get here? How did they come back? How did this happen? Let's talk about it. Because I think it's inherently interesting that once again, I was certainly convinced just a few days ago they would never reunite, and I will tell you why. But before that, let's talk about the band. Why are they important? Why are they important to rock and metal? Why are they so important? Why are they so iconic? So influential. This broke the internet. This image on all their social medias just had their logo with the 2027 on it and an audience shot. And people are saying this wasn't a confirmation. They're a tease. One of the things I don't do here at Ghost Cult is do the tease of the thing, the news about the thing that isn't announced yet. I don't do that. We don't do a lot of it, even if unless it's like Mudvayne is reuniting, Job for a Cowboy might drop a new record soon. Like those things are different. But just Aim by Sharks, what's up? Those are different. We don't just do the gratuitous tease you to get you to click on our site and then have nothing really to show for it. We wait until there's a thing. Now, maybe that's dumb and I should be courting throwaway views, but I think your time is worth more and more valuable than it. So let's do that here. Let's do that here where I enthrall you and I excite you and interest you and I provide wow, which I don't think a lot of my peers out there are doing. A lot of my peers out there are not actually doing real journalism. It's not a big thing for them. So this graphic broke the internet. And then the news broke from Polestar, the industry Bible for touring for the industry people, that Faith No More, like System of a Down just recently, signed with a major booking agency, 30E, for global touring. They just signed System of a Down, who is apparently plotting tours for next year. Interestingly enough, System of a Down and Faith No More were supposed to tour before Faith No More went on a new hiatus. Then the rest of the band confirmed this graphic. Like individual members of the band said, this is true. This is really happening. We're coming back to play shows in 2027. And then Billy Gould, one of the leaders of the band, while he's on tour in Europe promoting his brandy, his Serbian style brandy that's apparently growing in status all over the world, he gave an interview to an old friend of his who's a music journalist and promoter and basically laid it all out. We're going on tour in 2027. We're not getting any younger. If we were ever going to reunite, it was now. I don't even know in the future if we'll be able to play some of these songs. He's like, as soon as I get back from this press tour about the brandy, I'm going to start working out. He said the tour is probably going to start in early in the year, in January, as early as that. And then hopefully by the summer be doing European festivals, which means spring or fall USA. So yes, it might be a long way off, but it is confirmed to be happening. And just for a second, all of y'all on my Facebook, on Ghost Cult's Facebook, everybody else out there. Hi, Jeanette. Thanks for watching. Everybody else that's on our Facebook arguing they didn't confirm anything. There are no actual dates. This, that, and the other thing. Yo, they confirmed it. You're fucking idiots. You're fucking idiots. Just letting you know. You're all fucking idiots. They confirmed it. They're not going. They're coming back at least for this. I'll talk about that interview in a second. Also, where Billy said it's not likely they would even ever make new music ever again. It's not something he wants to do. He said every record has been difficult. He has not enjoyed almost any of them. Has never enjoyed them. So why would we do that now? We're going to come back and play shows. Billy is one of the foundational members of the band. He's not a founder, but he's a foundational member. I think I would take his word over any idiot on the internet. Just saying. Chris, what's up, man? We're just talking about the Faith No More reunion. Let me know if you got a favorite Faith No More album, member, song. I feel they're one of the most important and greatest bands ever, and they've certainly become more special and important to me as I gotten older. and of a very personal story to tell about Faith No More a little later in the show if you're interested. Oh, no worries, man. Faith No More is reuniting after being assuredly broken up and on hiatus. They had not played a show in 10 years since a small club show in LA. And then they were supposed to do more things. They took kind of a break. They kind of were doing other things. COVID hit. They had booked tours and festivals. They played none of them. They were all canceled. They had booked a new tour in as recent as 2021 that was supposed to be a humongous US tour, and at the very last minute, Mike canceled. We'll talk about why and how. Faith No More's coming back in 27 to play shows. I was going to save this for later in the show. My personal favorite record is Angel Dust. A lot of people would say The Real Thing. A lot of people seem to love the very controversial album King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. Their comeback record was great, Sol Invictus. Anyway, so here's Faith No More by the numbers. Unfortunately, you guys on TikTok can't tell, but I'm streaming everywhere else if you want to tune in there. But if you give us a follow on TikTok, I'll also follow you back when this is over. So Faith No More by the numbers, formed, this is actually incorrect, they were formed in 1979 in San Francisco by Roddy Bottom and Puffy Borden. Mike Puffy Borden. Mike Puffy Borden went to high school in the Haywood Valley, Haywood, California, in the Castro Valley, and was classmates with Cliff Burton and hung out with Jim Martin, who would later come in as their lead guitarist. Originally called Faith No Man, as in Faith in No Man. It was a quote from a book they liked. Oh, TikTok is just shitting the fucking bed today. I don't know why. Stop fucking interrupting my live stream, TikTok, you piece of shit. Anyway, so formed in 79, originally named Faith No Man, once led briefly by Courtney Love, which I thought was pretty interesting. She was in the band for a short spell of time, but mostly their early years, they were fronted by Chuck Mosley, who was kind of similar to Anthony Kiedis, not necessarily the most talented frontman or singer ever, but he had a lot of charisma. He could rap, he could scream, he could sing. He was smart. He had great stage presence and charisma. And so Faith No More's first two records, We Care a Lot and Introduce Yourself, kind of broke them on the scene. And We Care a Lot was like an underground alternative rock hit before they were famous, which is insane, actually. If we get cut off one more time, TikTok, I'm just going to bag it. But if you guys want to come over to YouTube or Instagram, I'm here as well, at Ghost Cult Mag. But anyway, so they have 7 albums, which we can talk about them in a bit. 1 EP, 2 live records, and 25 singles. And again, for a band that has had multiple long hiatuses, to have 25 singles released by record labels is insane. By comparison, Guns N' Roses has only had 24 singles, and that includes the last bunch of years where they put out like reimagined demos and unfinished tracks and things as singles. So really, like prime Guns N' Roses really only had like 20 or 21 songs. They have sold 20 million albums worldwide. Their best-selling album internationally is Angel Dust. That's the one people know the best, followed by The Real Thing, followed by Album of the Year. They have 3.3 million monthly listeners. That's mostly on Spotify. It's probably much more than that, but the other networks don't report what they stream. And they have literally influenced a generation of bands, if not several. They really had a tremendous impact on bands. I know they get a lot of credit for new metal, but really, like a lot of alternative rock and metal is because of Faith No More. King Parrot, what up, homies? We're just talking about the Faith No More reunion. I'm sure you're excited. I know you got your band. We talked about how much you guys love them. So yeah, man, I'm just so tickled pink that they're coming back. And just to talk a bit about the lineup, I know people are pining for Jim Martin to come back. I would say the chances of that are slim and next to none, because Jim and Patton don't really get like each other. Jim has really been retired from music. He did put a solo record out about 15 years ago. He jammed at Metallica's Orion Fest in 2012 in Detroit, where he jammed with Infectious Grooves, because those are his buddies. But again, co-founded by Mike Borden and Billy Gould in '79, and then they went until basically January of '98 before breaking up. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Reactivated in 2009, reunited. I finally saw them in 2010 in Brooklyn on the waterfront, which is now a series of condos, not even a concert venue. I also saw Primus that summer in Brooklyn. It was wild. I lived in Boston at the time. Mike Flores is here. What's up, Dawn? What's up? So Roddy comes in '83, and really he's the soul of the band in a lot of ways. He's one of the primary lyricists. Their best known records are co-written by him. He wrote their first couple of hits, and he had only been in the band a couple of years. So, he has been a linchpin in the band. Obviously, Patton, arguably the best vocalist of all time in a rock sensibility. He can do kind of anything. Metal Candy is here. What up? Patton could sing kind of anything, anywhere, anytime. He's done all kinds of projects, some of which we'll talk about. John Hudson has been the main lead guitarist in their last 3 incarnations. Sorry. Trey Spurwince of Mr. Bungle also did a stint on guitar, as well as Dean Menta. Headstock Goat saw them play 10 years ago at Aftershock. Yep, that was one of their last shows. I don't think Jim Martin's going to be back. The Real Thing is incredible. Thanks for your comment here on YouTube. Yeah, I don't think Jim is going to be invited back. And I don't know that he would. He has already said, I don't see myself coming on to play a show. That's disrespectful to me as the only guitarist. Even Roddy recently said, Jim was their best guitarist, which is kind of shitty, but it's also kind of true. John has been in the band ever since. Chuck obviously was in the band, exited the band in '88, went on to an interesting multivariate solo career. What's up, Gigi fan? And then Chuck passed away. But actually, before Chuck passed away, he got to join as a guest in LA in a small club show with Chuck and Mike. It was pretty phenomenal in 2016. I think that Aftershock show was their very last show before the pandemic, and then they have not played since. Felicia, what's up? So, yeah, interesting stuff. So, Faith No More, I love this picture with the GIMP, man. This is one of my favorite photos ever. So, Faith No More, they break up in they're heading to a breakup. I'll talk about it again later. I highly recommend reading Roddy Bottum's new book, The Royal We. I finished it off a while ago. My copy is floating around here somewhere. I'm moving out of this apartment soon. This is going to be one of my last videos here in the apartment, to be honest, beside my show tomorrow afternoon and maybe 1 or 2 more. So Faith No More, they blow up with The Real Thing. They end up opening for Metallica. James Hetfield wears this shirt on tour because he's buddies with Jim, because Jim, Cliff, and Puffy Borden all grew up, kind of all ran in the same scene and knew each other, and they knew Metallica, and they knew James Lars once they relocated to San Francisco. But the band has a lot of acrimony. Jim quits after the first tour following Angel Dust, which was their highly anticipated, high pressured follow-up. There's actually a new interview with Jim that leaked onto Reddit this week that is, if it's to believe, mind-blowing, where he contradicts a lot of stuff that's been said about him in the past. And the band is heading for a breakup. So Album of the Year comes out and debuts at #1 in Australia, New Zealand, and other places in the world, top 15 in the US. But the band is coming apart. I felt like King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime was great, but it's very Mr. Bungle-y, and that sets off and doesn't jibe well with people who like the heavier Faith No More stuff. And it's a little all over the place in terms of influences, so it's not an easy follow, an easy listen. It's meant to be challenging. It's definitely an outlier in their whole catalog. I thought Album of the Year, hilariously, with that title and the video for Last Cup of Sorrow and Helpless and Naked in Front of the Computer and things like that, I thought those were great songs and really a throwback a little bit to The Real Thing and other things, which, again, just to remind people, Mike Patton had to kind of be convinced to join Faith No More. He already had Bungle, and they were kind of a death metal-y thrash metal thing. The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, which was re-released as a demo when Patton put back out Bungle in recent years. And he really had to be sold on being in the band. And the real thing was completely written before he joined. So he didn't feel like a part of that process. And they didn't let him do too much. They had written lyrics, they had melodies, and they had him basically, hey, do this, paint inside the lines. So Angel Dust really felt like his first record. And then because of the success of Faith No More, Mike was able to put out Bungle and pursue all his other bands, which would not have been possible if he did not have a million-selling band like Faith No More. What's up, Chris Kale on TikTok? Good to see you, homie. Anyway, as I sip my seltzer at 1:13 a.m. Pacific. So Faith No More puts out Album of the Year and they go on tour. They had Trey Spruance in the band for a while, Dean Menta for a while, and then John Hudson, who has been the guitarist ever since. I just don't see Jim being invited back. But this is super interesting. Then I had tickets to see Faith No More with Limp Bizkit opening. This is how big Limp Bizkit was hitting the scene already with a major label. $3 bill was brand new, and they were either opening for everybody else or headlining immediately within a year. And it was September 19th, 1997, and I was on my way out. My birthday is the 17th. I was going out to celebrate with friends and see Faith No More. I was so fucking pumped. And then I got the call that my mom, who had been in the hospital, died. And my whole world was like brakes in a car. And that was that. I didn't even think about the show. I went to the hospital, obviously, and, had to deal with my mom dying. So really terrible. And I think I had tickets the following Monday to Helmet and Melvin's co-headlining, and I gave those tickets away to a homie who was in a band with me. But so that was it. And then they broke up at the end of the tour. You could tell from the European tour press they were not getting along, just barely going through the motions. So the band breaks up and they're gone for 12 years. And then they tease on social media that they were reuniting, and they basically played South America first and did like some big South American festivals in Chile and Uruguay and Paraguay and Brazil. And then they came to the States in the summer of 2010, and I finally saw them. If you look up some videos on, thank you for the likes, Lota. If you look up some video from the Faith No More Williamsburg, July 5th, 2010, I'm in the video some places during Midlife Crisis, which is one of my favorite songs by them. So fitting. So they reunite and they tour for a while. We covered them a bunch. These are phenomenal shots by my homie Meg Loyal Photography. Great photos. They did this thing with the flowers. First they came out and they toured in white outfits that kind of look like preachers, or I don't know, people who ask for change at the airport and try to give out Bibles. Then they did a thing where they dressed up as priests. They did another thing where they dressed up in fine suits, which is a thing Patton used to do. So these are some great photos for Meg Loyal Photography. You should give her a follow. And then they put out Sol Invictus, which was their comeback record. And I thought this was phenomenal. And it kind of sounded like it should have come out in between King for a Day and Album of the Year. It had a little bit of the heavy stuff. It had a little bit of the all over the place genre blending, which so many bands do today, but Faith No More was one of the first. And I thought it was, a lot of bands come back and they don't have great records. I don't think the Chili Peppers have done a good record in a long ass time. People are divided on that last Black Sabbath 13 album, if it's any good. It just had an anniversary. And so I thought this record ruled. They continued to book tours. I thought they were going to tour more. And then maybe the writing was on the wall. Here's that last show with Chuck. This is out in LA in 2016 after playing the Troubadour. Clearly everybody here is pictured but Patton, but they seem to get along, sang together, seemed to like each other and respect each other, which was nice, I thought. Yeah. So then, they peter out again. They had these big tours booked. So Aftershock, Headstock Goat Luck. I think this is your Aftershock, right? Is this 2021 or before this? So I think they're like maybe they played that Aftershock or the one before it. They had booked a tour with System of a Down and Korn that was supposed to happen. There was some one-off shows with System of a Down, Korn, and Faith No More, and Faith No More dropped off those. Hey, Soylent Green, what up, what up? And then Korn and Faith No More, where the student becomes the master. When we last met, I was but the learner, but now I am the master. Where Korn and Faith No More co-headlined was supposed to be with Scars on Broadway and Helmet Spotlights in '66. Completely canceled because of COVID. They come back in 2021 and they book a whole U.S. tour again. And Patton, on the night before they hit the road with the tour buses and the vans and the trailers, he cancels the whole tour, and he claims that he was kind of a mental issues and he didn't want to do anything with the band. But at the same time, Mr. Bungle is booking shows and playing shows a short time after. And he really reacted. I've seen Bungle now more times than I've seen Faith No More. He booked a bunch of festivals. We've covered them all over the USA. Even Milwaukee Metal Fest a couple of years ago when they came back. So I think there was a lot of bad blood between Roddy, Mike, Bill, and Puffy. Even especially Billy, who had been one of Mike's champions, was really, apparently in his feelings. And Mike, was like, yeah, I'm not interested. He ghosted them for years and years, 3-4 years. He just vanished. And Roddy's book talks about the disappointment and the hurt. Like, I see him all over the world with these other projects and booking things and announcing things. And then we are snubbed. And I don't know why. But it seemed like among one of Patton's recent projects, in addition to Bungle, was to do this album with the Avett Brothers, random but interesting. And then on that tour, I think the Avett Brothers wanted to do Faith No More covers. So they did a few. And in San Francisco, Roddy came out. And Puffy came out, and I think in another city, Roddy came out to see that tour in New York, and they hung out, and there was photos of them. And I still was like, I'm thrilled about this, but I'm not sure this means they're coming back, because I know there's a lot of bad feelings, and you just don't know. Getting together in person is a lot different than working together and restarting a working relationship that was always rocky, or mostly rocky. And Patton probably feels like, I don't need Faith No More to get out my Faith No More. My music is my music, and I do other things with it. Even with Mr. Bungle, which is like a star-studded band, plus the 2 long-term Bungle guys. You have Dave Lombardo and Scott Ian happily joining up to be in your band. You don't need Faith No More, in a way. But Faith No More fans have been fiending. Faith No More band members have been fuming. So I didn't think this was possible. And we started to see images on social media. Like I said, he restarted Bungle, has a whole new album, and Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, and who knows if they have more stuff. There was also some thoughts that Dead Cross would be coming back at some point. That's his other hardcore band. Bungle is incredible, can do thrash, can do hardcore, can do, yacht rock, the things that Patton loves, the dichotomy of all these things. Tomahawk is about to go on tour for the first time in ages and co-headline tour with Melvins. I don't know if I can get to the San Francisco date in August because I'm getting married in a month. Less than a month. And in the meantime, Patton also has done shows with Fantomas in 2019, and there's always talk that Fantomas might make a comeback or something else. People would love to see Lovage or Mondo Cane or any of his other random musical acts maybe make a comeback someday. Billy, as I've been talking about, has been promoting this plum brandy Jabija. Forgive me, I'm not Serbian. I do have some Eastern European in my background. Serbian's not one of them. But he's been promoting this heavily, and also he has Cool Arrow Records. I don't know if he's still putting out music with Cool Arrow. I would love to talk to him about it someday. As you know, Puffy has played with Ozzy. He immediately went from the Faith No More, was already kind of going on tour with Ozzy and Ozfest as the drummer for Ozzy and Black Sabbath a little bit in 1997. He continued to record and tour with Ozzy sometimes, off and on, and other bands he's been in. Here he is. And, he seems to be the most mild-mannered and nicest member of the band, just seems to be the most down-to-earth guy. I know he has a family and kids and things like that, grown kids. None of these guys are getting any older. You know what I'm saying? They're all gray. And like I said, uh, I'm just so flabbergasted and happy that the band is coming back here. Roddy had moved to France and then Brooklyn and wrote his book, The Royal We. This is him just last week on a cruise in New York when they his band Nasty Band opened for Napalm Death, which is a lot of fun. He also has a band Man on Man with his husband. And The Royal We was incredible. It's one of the most blunt tell-all books about any band I have ever seen. Staten's a hit nowadays, Bob Saget says. I don't disagree. I think I went before this, big bands, Deftones, Coheed. So I'm going to say that was Velvet Revolver. It's probably the late teens. So 2017, 2018. But they really haven't played a show since then. Headsock, Goatlock. And then Satan. Satan is a hit nowadays. Good one. But yeah, Roddy, man, I'm super happy for him. And we got to cover his band, which was wonderful. His book is incredible if you're a fan. And then just a couple of other things to shout out. You know, they have a bunch of big anniversaries coming up. Angel Dust came out in 92. I don't know if this band can make it another 6 years, but the real thing is 3 years away from 30 years. And I know, again, Mike has never felt like it was his whole record. But Angel Dust had an interesting anniversary. King for a Day last year was 30 years. We Care a Lot turned 40 recently. So, you know, they do have a lot of music to honor. I don't know that they would go out and play a whole album. I think Mike and some of the members of the band would find that absolutely corny. But I think it's super cool that they have an opportunity to kind of reconnect and reinvigorate themselves with this music that fans love. And then I just want to say again, my personal favorite record is Angel Dust, although I do still love The Real Thing. I know people just feel like it's not the authentic Mike, but it was a record they were ready to make and is huge because the songs are tremendous, not just Michael. And again, drop a comment with your favorite Faith No More record. And also, I can't recommend this book enough. I need to reach back out to this author. Adrian Hart wrote this book a while back, Small Victories, The True Story of Faith No More. This is collected from interviews with the band, interviews with their peers, interviews he collected from other places, really factually sourced and checked. And you might have seen some of the artwork that I shared in the last couple of slides. Go check out if you love the band, not just, you know, the Reddit community is pretty strong, but I want to say Faith No More followers on Facebook is a tremendous, I know Facebook is trash, but it's a tremendous group. It's a tremendous group for musical lovers. Hey, Sun Don't Shine, what up, what up, what up? Just talking some Faith No More comeback. I never thought Faith No More would reunite again, but here we go. So that's the show, and we are so back, and I'm so stoked for the possibility of seeing this band. I suspect it won't be until the fall, although I think, of course, Paint Records, what up, what up? I do think that I do believe that there's a chance, because they were aligned with Danny Wimmer festivals before, and Riot Fest certainly loves booking patent projects. You could see Faith No More do all the European festivals next summer as a headliner. Ryan said Fred will be the opener. Nice. AKA Halford in Fight, Andrew. But I wouldn't be surprised to see like Faith No More headline all the Danny Wimmer festivals, Incarceration, Riot Fest, Lollapalooza. These are huge, lucrative, huge things that they would be an absolute worthy headliner of for next summer. And then again, I think in that interview I mentioned, Billy mentioned start the year in South America, most likely, tour for a few months, take some time off, tour again, take some time off, go to Europe in the summer, and then maybe the fall. So that's what I believe. That's everything I know so far. That's a huge deep dive into the history of the band and why there was so much turmoil and all the changes and things they've gone through since 1979. I'm just stoked that this is happening. I do think a lot of this had to do, I will say, why they're able to be back, I think, is because Mike got, how do I get Sun Don't Shine to open? You got to talk to that booking agency. I don't know. I'd love to see it. I bet those guys will all get along and dig each other too. Mike got sober recently, and I wonder if that's not a huge part of his mental and physical well-being and health. He got a tattoo at the end of his last tour, opening for Avenged Sevenfold, who are humongous Bungle fans from way back. And Mike got the two hardcore straight edge crosses on his hands. I mean, I don't know if he's actually edge, but I think, I think it's a huge step for him if he's chosen sobriety. It's probably his best self is when he's sober and chill and creative. And, I hope it sticks, and I hope the band sticks together at least for a couple of years. I'm really stoked. I was so lucky to see them. Ghost Cult was so lucky to cover them that we have a lot of things. I've felt very fortunate to cover Roddy's band as recently as last week, one of his bands, and anything Puffy does, and of course, Billy also. So many projects, so many side bands, and not just their incredible albums, but Faith No More is a band that would always pop up on like movie soundtracks, Judgment Night soundtrack, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey soundtrack with Perfect Crime, cover songs like Dead Kennedys covers, the Commodores cover, Easy is a throwaway afterthought song, becomes a sensational, huge single. So, just props to them. This is really one of the most, innovative and great bands ever to come back. Ever to do it, and now they're back. So people are saying they're not back until I see some tour dates. Yeah, get over yourself. People fighting on our Facebook. You guys are just helping us with the algorithm. So thanks everybody. Thanks everybody. And so yeah, that's our show. I will be back in about 15 hours with my weekly show. This is going to be one of my very last shows from San Francisco. I am moving up north to Sonoma County with my fiance. I'm getting married in less than 30 days. Holy shit. I'm so pumped. And I hope everybody's good out there. Have a good morning. Have a good night, everybody that popped on. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody else. I appreciate y'all for being here. Headshot Goatlock. If you've got a channel, I'll follow you. Thank you to all of y'all on TikTok that followed. If you're new here, like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on the rebroadcast, give us a 5-star review on your streamer of choice. I'm Keefe, and I'm out until later today. Peace and faith no more forever, everybody. Let's do it.